Welcome back to our conversation that I'm having here with Anna Funder. She's an Australian-based writer, and I'm going to talk to her now about her other novel, This Is All That I Am. Now, Anna, you've did 5 years in the writing, and now it's out, okay? Let's talk about the actual storyline in this book of yours. It's somewhat similar, but except that that is for real, and this is from your head.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it was inspired by someone that I knew, by a really lovely woman who was 60 years older than me, and she taught my German teacher German. She had been an anti-Hitler activist in the 30s in Germany, and so when I knew her, I knew her first as a teenager. It made it as if what had happened when Hitler came to power in the 30s of the 20th century was much closer to me in the 80s than it would otherwise have been, because I had this friend who had lived through that time. After she died, I started to research her life, and I came across the story of a friend of hers who had been found, along with her flatmate, a very eminent German politician, in exile in 1935, in the locked top floor room of a flat in Bloomsbury.
That's in London.
In London, poisoned. So we had this situation where I came across this incredible story of two eminent women poisoned in a locked room in Bloomsbury, and the inquest that was very cursory and took place the next week after they died, found that it was suicide by reason of unsound mind due to romantic disappointment. Now, I looked and looked and looked at that, and I looked at the circumstances of these very brave people who were trying to alert the world to what Hitler was going to do. They'd had to leave Germany, found exile in London, only it looked like they were not safe in London. And I put together, from everything that I could see on the historical record, a story that seems to me more likely than what the historical record says to us, which is romantic disappointment, which I don't think is a valid reason for a double death.
Double death. Suicide, yeah.
I don't think it's something that we recognise these days as a likely cause. So I did a bit of detective work and put together a plot, and which I was very excited by, and then wrote these characters into that.
But Anna, really, it's a true story then? Or would you say it's based on a true story? Would that be the more correct way of putting it?
It's that the characters are based on real people,
yes,
and the events that happened really happened. So there's what happens is there's a kidnapping, one of the exiles betrays another, and then an investigator is sent from Switzerland to London to look at that. Scotland Yard gives the investigator the cold shoulder because the British don't want to know what Nazi agents are doing in London at that time. And then my character Dora says to this man, "You can do all your interviews at my flat. I will help you find out what Nazis are doing in London." And at the end of that week, the investigator goes back to Switzerland, and she and her flatmate are found dead. So that's true, but it's never been put together. And I put it together in ways where I had to make all of the causal links, and I don't think that a historian would make those, or no respectable historian would make them. But a novelist is free to do that.
Right, poetic license really in a way,
actually,
isn't it?
I don't know that it's partly poetic license, and it's partly writing a story that seems more likely than the historical one.
Okay. What do the Germans think about your books?
Well, All That I Am is coming out in Germany next year, so it's being translated now, and I don't know what they're going to think about that. I mean, I really am looking closely at some very early, unrecognised heroes of the resistance in Germany, so I'll be interested to see how that goes. Stasiland has been, selling constantly for 10 years, and it got very good reviews, it got a lot of publicity, but it is also a very sensitive topic in Germany because I'm dealing with the second dictatorship of the 20th century in Germany, and the people who were against that, so the people who resisted the communist dictatorship, love the book, and the people who were part of it, who were part of the Stasi or the army or the government or the Communist Party, they really hate the book because they
don't want to know about it, yes.
Well, they're not used to being criticised. They didn't come from a world where that could happen.
Yes. Right. Your next book then, Anna, what's in the pipeline?
Well, I'm starting work on another novel, but All That I Am has been out for 10 weeks and I've been talking about it non-stop. And the other one is just in a kind of wool gathering stage, but I'm gathering together. I know what happens in it, I think.
So it's all in your head already?
Well, not all of it.
No?
Not all of it.
It's kind of what? It sort of goes along and sort of adds on to it, you know? The ideas, do the ideas just flow?
I'm in a sort of what I'm describing as a scaffolding stage. So I'm making in my mind the scaffolding of how this, or the architecture, or maybe the blueprint, something like that. So this is the plan of how this novel will stand up. And that happens at the same time as the characters are taking shape in my mind. And the fact is that all, you know, the best laid plans go astray. And I'm quite sure that what I'm thinking of now will not be how it will be when I finish, because I don't think that we're in control of our imaginations.
Right. Now, All That I Am, 10 weeks out on the shelves. Are you satisfied with the way it's going?
Well, it's been on the bestseller list in Australia for 11 weeks now. So
All That I Am.
All That I Am. So I'm, you know, I think it's starting its life, you know.
Right. And of course, you're here in India and you're promoting your book, you're going around, you know. I know that you have been meeting with different people. What's the kind of response that you have actually been getting from people in India to something like this, to books like this?
Well, it's been really thrilling for me because
Really?
people are absolutely fascinated. I think it taps, you know, these stories of courage and ordinary people doing kind of quite extraordinary things are really fascinating for everybody. I've been very moved, you know. And I went and spoke at the university in Kerala, and I have to say, I have never spoken in front of a more beautifully dressed audience in my entire life.
Really?
I was bowled over by all of these incredible Keralan saris. I talked to my daughters and I said, I spoke to a room of princesses today.
Yes, because it was in the palace as well, right?
It was beautiful.
In the palace. When you go around doing this, do people ask you about the intricacies, the finer details, the finer points of writing something like Stasiland, for instance? Because it seems such a moving book, you know. It's a very intense book. And are people interested? Do they want to know? What's the question you get asked most about the book?
Were you frightened? Yes.
Okay. But were you?
Mostly not, no. But I think it's the tone of the book as well, I think that really has, I didn't realise this when I was doing it, but I think that there's a kind of personal tone to the book that makes it easy for people to respond to emotionally, even though Stasiland is a non-fiction book.
Right.
So I think that's been something I learned.
Well, Anna, all I can say is that I've run out of time, but you know, it's been an absolute delight to have you here. I really do appreciate your time. I know you're really busy, you're running away, right? You know, like tomorrow, but it's been our pleasure to have you, and we wish you continued success in all your books, and perhaps when the third book is out, you'll come back and see us again.
I would love to.
Well, it's been our pleasure to have you join us here on We Connect, and don't forget, please, to keep watching our show Friday nights at 9:30, and don't forget that this has been the 100th episode of our program. Thank you very much for your continued support. We look forward to having you on our show all the time. Watch for us. It's a show on which you'll always find somebody who's fascinating, somebody who's interesting, and I do believe somebody who always has a story to tell us. And so until the next time, you take care. Bye for now.